Welcome to TechFunda.com. In this video, we are going to learn how to create a single-page web application using ASP.NET Web API, AngularJS, HTML5, and CSS3. So, in order to do that, first let us create an ASP.NET Web API project. So, go to the File menu, go to the New, and then Project. And here you click on the Web from the left panel, and in the right panel you select ASP.NET Web Application, write the path and say OK. So once you click on OK, you will be seeing a web application project here in the Visual Studio. Now in this web application project, everything is by default. Apart from the default folder structure, I have created a SPA, means single page application folder. And under that, a PD folder, means in our case we will be using personal details as a model, so I have created a PD folder, and remaining everything are same as usual. Now, in order to work with the database, we will have a controller and a model. So our model is personal detail. Now you can see that the model property is auto ID, first name, last name, age, and active. And corresponding to this model, we have a database that is local DB here. And corresponding to that model, we have a table called personal details here in the local DB. Now you can see that all the corresponding fields of the model property will be here. Let's wait a few minutes. Here is our database structure: auto ID, first name, last name, age, and active. You can see that exactly the same name we have into the model property here. So we'll be working with this table only. Okay. So once we have the model with us, then we will create a controller. So in order to create a controller, you must be knowing it. Right click the controller folder, go to add, and after that select controller, and then select web API to controller with access using entity framework. Say add. And you will be presented with the dialog box, add controller dialog box. Here is write the model name. Our model is personal detail. Select the data context name and then the name of the controller. And I have done the same thing already, and that's why we have a personal details controller here. Now this controller is the default controller as you get when you scaffold the controller, the way I just now shown. So till now we have created all the infrastructure that we need in the server side in order to work with the in order to work with the single page of the application. Now let's create some client side code. So first what we have done is that we have an index.html page, and that is going to be our template. And in index.html page, we have required a couple of files. In these, first of all, you can see that there are bootstrap inside and then AngularJS file. Now, we also need an AngularJS module called AngularJS module. So we have also included this. In the article, you will see that where to get the AngularJS module from. And then we have jQuery and bootstrap. And this is our custom JS file that we will be showing you in a couple of minutes. After that, we have the CSS style that will be using it to show the loading notification while the database data will be loaded from the server to the client. And then here is a very simple template. The important thing to note here is that this tag div ngview div. So what this does is that as and when a end user will click on any of the menu of our single page application, the respective views will be loaded in place of this ngview. And before that, in the body, we have ng app equal to app and ng controller equal to controller. If you are not aware about ng app, ng controller, and what is ng view, then I would strongly recommend you to go to TechFunda.com and learn the AngularJS tutorial from here. But that is out of the scope of this video, so we will not be going there. Now let's come back here to the Visual Studio. So this is our main template. You can say the body part and then view. Even everything will be same. Like here we have a div loading that we'll be talking very soon. And then we have a couple of menu systems like personal details, about us, and contact us, as you can see here. Personal details, about us, and contact us. Now let's try to understand what script we need to write in order to work with the single page application. So we have first created in this CS file that is referred to index.html here. So first what we have done is that we have created an app, and this app is dependent on ng route. And you can see that the same app is referenced into the index.html page here under the body. Yeah, and the ng controller is SP controller that will be writing it very soon. But before we try and write the controller code, we also need to configure the routing mechanism of the single page web application. So the first thing what we have done is that we have created a configuration for the navigation using route provider that exists into ng route module. And what we are saying is that when the URL is looking like just /, for example, this, then you redirect, then you use the template URL called home.html, is that this page will get loaded in place of the ng view here, and the controller that it will use is a home controller. So you can see that I have created a home controller also below. Home controller, and the title in the scope we have given a single page application SPA, and the same is getting written in the single page application SPA, and that title is written in the home.html as a this title. So it is a very velocity. Now similar to this, we have also written different configuration for different URL. For example, if it is about, then the view that will be loaded in place of ng view is about.html, and the controller it will use is about controller. Similarly for contact and for PD and so on. So we'll understand this in a bit. Now let's go ahead and now as we are going to create a database driven single page application, so we have to work with the HTTP services in order to get the data from the database and save the data into the database using AngularJS. So in order to do that, what we have done is that we have created a service in the AngularJS using the factory method. So we have a PD service, and in this we have declared a couple of functions like get all functions that will send a get request to the server onto the API that we have just now created. As you can see that we have created a personal detail API controller, and we have all the scripting methods are there. So it will send to this URL the get request, and once the response has come, it will receive the response and set to the get all functions. If any error has come, then it will come to this particular function. If you are not familiar with the HTTP, how the AngularJS HTTP services work, then again go to the TechFunda.com and AngularJS tutorial and learn about it. Similar to get all, we have created a get single function where we are passing the ID as a parameter, and it will get that specific record and return. And then for insert, we are accepting 4 parameters into this function, creating an object, and then the same object is being sent to the server to insert the database, and similarly for the update and for the delete. Now, in order to see, these are very straightforward things. If you know AngularJS, it will be very easy for you to understand because it is simpler AngularJS HTTP services code. If you are not aware of AngularJS, it will be very difficult for you to understand. So I will strongly recommend you to go and learn the AngularJS before proceeding further. Now till now we have created all the services that we require in order to send the data and get the data from the database. Now let's create a views. So the first thing is that we will be creating the index view under the PD folder. So if you see here, when we are clicking on the personal details, it is going to the PD folder, right? So here in the route module, we have said that if it is going to the PD, go and load the index.html page under the PD folder of SPA. It means that SPA PD and this. And the controller that it will use is PD controller. Right? So now let's go to the index.html. Like this is the index page that we have. Let us go remaining things. Okay, here what we have is that we have a create new menu, and then we have a create table. We are using ngRepeat. Again, if you are not aware about ngRepeat, go to the TechFunda.com, techfunda.com, and learn about it. And we are looking through each data that is coming from the server and writing it into the PD in the table cell. So now we will go to the PD controller. Now let's go to the PD controller here that we have declared here. It will write the title that will get written here, and after that it will say root scope.loading equal to true. Now what is root scope.loading? Root scope.loading basically help us to show and hide the loading notification. If you notice here, when I am clicking create, so it is very quick. When I am clicking edit, you must have seen the flickering of the loading notification. Okay, if it is not visible clearly, let me modify the source code, and then you will be able to see it. It will take a little time to load. It's very fast. So okay, let me modify this, rebuild it, and then probably will be able to see the loading notification. So I'm rebuilding the project and run again so that it will take a little time. And then we'll be able to see the loading notification. You can see this is the loading notification, right? So this is coming because when the page is loading, it goes to this SPA controller, because here in the index.html what we have said is that the app is app AWP and the controller we are using SPA controller, and the div loading is this. And here we have said that ng show equal to loading. It means that if loading is true, then this will be shown. If loading is false, then this div will not be shown. And when this div will be shown, then the loading notification will appear. And the CSS class for this div, the loading notification is written here. Okay. So here I am saying loading false. It means that don't show the div. But when we are into the PD controller, we are showing the div. So when we are showing the loading div, the div will appear, but as soon as it has got the data from the database using the AngularJS HTTP services and web API, then we are setting that data from the service. Which service? This service, get all service. So we are setting that data to the personal details property of the scope object, and then we are setting root scope.loading equal to false. It means that hide the notification, hide the loading notification. And this personal details is being used here to load the data into the row. As you can see, that is appearing here. So this is how the list of records is working in the single page web application. Now let's say that we have to create a new record into the database. Then I'll click on create. So when I click on create, it will go to the hash pd create. Hash means do not navigate away from this page. It means that the target of this is within the same page. So pd create. Now if you go to the JS file, in the navigation settings configuration, we have said that if it is pd create, then load the view that is create.html. It means that this. So this will get loaded, and then on ng submit, this is the directive of AngularJS, we are calling create. And after you load this view, you go ahead and use the controller for pd controller create now. So here is our pd controller create. This one. So what it is saying? It is saying that set the title called create personal detail. So you can see that the title is written here as create personal detail, and then loading is true, and once 1 minute, sorry, there is no loading true, that is as the create. So when we write some data into this and say create button, so when I click on the create button, what happens is that this form will get submitted, and when this form will get submitted, it will call create function of this controller. So in the create function of this controller, we are saying loading true. It means that so the notification and calling the insert method of the service that will be found with all the 4 parameters that is there into the create. And these 4 parameters are nothing but the ng model of respective text boxes and the checkboxes. And then once it is going to call the insert function here, it comes here, and then it simply send or post data to the server, and response comes as a status text. It means that it will come here and write the text, the response text that is coming from the server to the create message property of the scope object, and then the notification will be hidden, and that create message response will be shown here. So you can see here, click, it is showing the notification, and then the response is coming with this. Now if you go back to the list, you will see that the data that we have created, the inserted, is appearing here. Now if you click on edit, what happens is that it is going to pd edit and 10. It means that we will go back to again the navigation configuration, the route configuration, pd edit, and then here I am saying colon id. Colon id means the last fragment of the URL is nothing but a parameter. So what is the parameter value right now? 10. Last fragment is 10, so that is becoming as id. And it is saying go to and load edit.html and open the and use the pd controller edit controller, images controller. So this is going to be this one, and here this controller is dependent on the scope, of course, the pd services that will be using the route parameter. Now what is the route parameter? Route parameter is this one, the parameter that we are passing, that is written into the routing configuration. And route scope, naturally we will be using this for the loading purpose. Now once we are coming to this URL, we have to load this data, the record whose id is auto equal to 10. So for that purpose we are calling this guy, this one. So in the scope get single means, hold on, we'll go to the edit here. So as soon as it is coming here, what we are doing is that we are calling the get single function with the id as parameter. Now what is this id? This id is nothing but the parameter id that we have declared here, the fragment. And so currently the route parameter is 10, so it is calling this get single function, and get single function we have declared into the services, getting that particular according to the database and then returning it to the calling function. It means that returning back here, this one. And then this get single is basically setting all the respective property of the scope object, and that is getting as an ng model, so it is discrete two-way binding. It is coming from the controller to the viewer, and then it will go from view to the controller. So all this scope object has been written So that will populate the data. So here you can see that it is populating the data into the respective text boxes, and then it is saying loading equal to false. And now when we click on the update button, what happens? Because it is of submit type, so it will call this ng submit and call the update function. In the update function, what it does, it again shows the loading notification called the update function of the services. So this is the update, and creates an object, send a put request to the server, to the API, and get the data, the whatever response that is coming in, and that will get written into the span here, that is inside the edit page. So till now we have learned how to list the data from the database, how to update the data, and how to create a new record into the database. Now let us try to understand that in case we have to show the details. For example, I'm clicking the detail. So it is going to PD, detail and type. It means that it is saying that go ahead and use this one, and ID is 5 here. Going to the details, it means that here. And first what it will do, it will write the data and then it will create some name. Okay, and then it will load, it will call the PD controller details, that is here. This one. So again, as soon as the page has been loaded, it will it will display all the data by calling this. And in the details, we have this person object, last name, first name. That is as per this, because we are setting the return data into the person object, and the loading is first, so that loading that will take place of the be displayed. And in case we want to delete it, when clicking on the delete, will fire a confirm function that is asking whether you want to delete or not. If I say OK, what will happen is that it will show the loading notification and call the remove function of the services, the declared. So this is it will send a delete request to the server, and and whatever response is coming, that will display as an message here, the delete message here, as you can see here. Okay, so the record has been deleted. We'll go back, and you can see that particular record has been deleted. So this is how the whole single page application works. In throughout all the integration, you must have noticed that there is no browser refresh at all. The URL is changing. So that if, let's say, suppose I am into this edit, right? And if I am copy pasting this URL to someone, it will be directly going to the edit view. The URL will change, but the whole page doesn't refresh. Like when I am clicking on details, the URL is changing, but the whole page is still there. So only the portion of the page, the portion where we have written ng view, the ng view, only this portion of the page refreshed, because all the respective views content gets set here, and remaining the header and footer remains. So this is how we create a single page web application using AngularJS and ASP.NET Web API.